2025, I'd like to go ahead and call the Children's Trust regular meeting to order. Any member of the public wishing to be heard shall come forward to the podium at the appropriate time, introduce themselves to the board. Members of the public recognized by the chair will have 3 minutes to speak on a single subject matter or to address the current motion on the floor. The clerk of the trust will function as the official timekeeper, and the clerk will now call the roll and verify that we have at least 5 members of the trust that are physically present, and then we'll see about who is online that needs to participate. So, Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Sir. Member Tina Certain.
Here.
Member Mary Chance. Chair Ken Cornell.
Here.
Dr. Nancy Hart has raised her hand. Dr. Maggie Labarda.
Here.
Dr. Kamala Patton. Member Lee Pinkeson.
Here.
Vice Chair Cheryl Twombly.
Here.
Honorable Suzanne Wilson Bullard.
Okay, so we have a quorum of the board physically present. I know that Dr. Patton may be dialing in and has a medical condition. Can we get a motion that if that happens, that she can participate?
Second.
Got 3 motions and 2 seconds. To that effect, so thank you for that. Any public comment to that motion? Back to the board, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is unanimous. So if we get Dr. Patton, then she'll be able to participate and vote. Virtually, we will have participation of Dr. Hart participating virtually as well. Okay, now we move to the approval of the agenda, including any revisions. Do I hear a motion?
No, sir.
I move approval of it. Taking your place.
Former chair trying to become the chair. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A motion is second to approve the agenda and consent agenda. Any public discussion to the motion? Seeing none, back to the board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is unanimous. Thank you. Board. All right. This is the first opportunity we have for the general public to address this board on anything not on the agenda. The main things on the agenda today are the preliminary budget, which we'll get to, as well as the audit. Is there anyone that wishes to come forward and speak to us on anything that is not on the agenda? The time to come forward, if you could go ahead and come forward, introduce yourself. If you'll stand up at that podium, and when you see that podium, there's a little microphone. If you'll push a button so that it turns from red to green, we'll be able to hear you. The timekeeper will keep 3 minutes, but go ahead and introduce yourself and give us your thoughts.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Oshabi Craig. I'm the director of the Center for Arts, Migration, and Entrepreneurship at the University of Florida. I'm here to address the board on a couple different things. Specifically, we have been the holder of the SPARK 352 initiative, along with our sister center, the Center for Arts and Medicine, for the last 4 years. This work has been transformational with respect to arts, wellness, and really connectivity between many of the educators that we have in the College of the Arts and our community. In the last year, and I've listened to most of the budget workshop, we have been navigating what feels like a trifecta of challenges on the budget landscape, with challenges at the federal level, at the state level. And recently, we've been, for the last few years, funded by the Mellon Foundation. And just 3 weeks ago, found out that they are now making modifications in their giving. We were anticipating additional funding, which would have represented about $500,000 to continue the work that we've been doing in the community. And have found out that that money is not going to be available likely in this calendar year. We have programmatic efforts that are running right now at 8th Avenue at the Oakview Center, where we have artists basically creating work. We've done youth apprenticeship programs. We've done a lot of work with respect to the use of arts as a pathway for community wellness. Myself and Dr. Champion, who is here, who is the director of the program itself, were actually instrumental in the development of the One Nation, One Project initiative that the city participated in. Her and I actually wrote the application for that. We've been at the core of many of the partnerships that have happened, specifically bringing together the school board, the city, the university in really powerful ways over the last few years, and are at a spot where we need to expand the partnerships that we have to provide funding for the programming that we're doing. 1 minute, okay. And so I'm here. I had a short meeting 2 weeks ago with Ms. Kiner, who was gracious to give me a meeting with 1 day notice about where we were and our hopes to be able to partner specifically with the Children's Trust to bring some of our programming, specifically led by Dr. Champion, who is a leader in learning sciences and arts integration education.
Second.
No, hold on a minute now, Dr. Champion, you're getting a whole new 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Awesome, awesome. And so to wrap, I'm here hoping that we can start a conversation. Ms. Kiner was very clear that the budget process was already working its way down the track. But for us, waiting until next spring to apply for funding will be too late. That we're at a spot where this programming could die on the vine. And I think that that would be a loss for everyone involved, specifically for the community members that we've served and those who have called on us to expand our base from Gainesville into the surrounding areas. Thank you.
That's the awards. So the county awards, right?
Yeah, Dr. Champion, go ahead.
Okay, I don't have very much more to add except just to express the urgency of the situation that we're in and what we can potentially offer. As Mr. Craig said, I've been doing programming for the last maybe 15 years now with youth and at the integration of STEM and arts. So we do programs that integrate dance with physics, computer science with hip hop. And most of the work that we've done is at the center of dance and STEM or math, science, computation, and things like that. And so we have kind of a menu of programs that we could potentially offer to be able to develop something depending on what the need is. And I know that there's a need in the communities potentially that we've been working with and also throughout other communities in the county to be able to deliver some of the program that has been sponsored by the NSF. 2 or 3 different projects that I've been working on have had NSF sponsorship, which again, at this point, NSF is a different kind of monster. And so, you know, there are opportunities to bring some of that work to the youth in the county, across the county. But yeah, we're just really looking for an opportunity to be able to partner with you to figure out some pathways forward to be able to do that work, to impact the lives and the education of the kids that are in this community because we have the resources and we're just trying to figure out how to share them.
Next speaker, please. Anybody else? Oh,
Hi there, my name's Izzy Brazel. I'm the assistant director at the Gainesville Circus Center. I just ran over from our first day of summer camp. It went awesome. And I wanted to take a moment to talk to you all and invite you personally. For the next 6 weeks on Fridays at 2:30, we'll have our camp showcases, our performances that the youth put on. It's from 2:30 to 3, and it's really fantastic. The kids it's about a 30-minute performance and they're in costumes and there's lights and hair and makeup. And I would really love if anyone would love to come and see what we do. We flew a juggler, professional juggler all the way here from the UK, and he's doing a lot of really amazing stuff with the kids. So if you have the time in the next 6 weeks to swing on over by the circus, we'd love to have you. So thank you.
they were the star of the show of the opening of this building. Yeah. Anyone else? Twice. Okay, I'm gonna close general public comment. Before I do that, Dr. Oshby Craig, what is the funding shortfall? And you said it's by December 31st.
So it's after December 31st. So our programming is funded through December 31st. Once we get to January 1st, I have staff members, artists, program people that will be officially unemployed. So we're talking about a gap that's from January, basically until I can connect where we are with our potential funder, the Mellon Foundation. So we're hoping to raise about $240,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So members, I had a real wonderful opportunity to have a one-on-one with Dr. Craig. I will be bringing this request forward to the county. I know he is going forward to the city. When I look at our budget, I think of a couple of specific areas, line item areas that we have an organization that's already in the community, already doing the work and really effective. I think of the gun violence line, I think of the mentoring line. And so I would ask that you all just kind of think about that as we kind of progress through the budget process, but they are doing incredible work. They have leveraged outside dollars and hope that once we get through the next year or two, they can continue to leverage it. Kind of add my 2 cents to the public comment. Okay, any other comments before we move on? All right, next is the chair's report, which I just gave. The other thing I will say is that we approved in the consent agreement, the agreement with the Griffin Group, who will serve as our lobbyist. Tom and I have spoken 4 times in the last 7 days, not once about the trust, but now we will be able to start talking about the trust. We have 4 board seats that sit in the governor's office. And the county just forwarded at the last county commission meeting, 3 applicants for Dr. Hart's seat, Dr. Hart, Tucker Riles, and
Taylor.
Taylor Gifford, yes, 3 amazing people. And so, so that communication with the governor's office will be critical through the Griffin Group. We also began talking about some real potential opportunities for grant funding at the state level into the trust. We don't have anything in the preliminary budget, but knowing Tom and his group, I know they have some ideas about where we could be putting in the legislative request at the next legislative session, and that work kind of starts actually this summer before they get into committee. That was the second part of the chair report I had, and then I think okay, so that's the chair report. Moving on, we have the executive director report. Anna, you're recognized.
Bad habit. I was about to pick it up and start speaking into it, but we are good to go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You all bear with me. I have a good bit today. First, I want to start by talking about our trust trainings. We have really done, I think, a stellar job of providing trainings to our providers over the last month to month and a half, from SAMHSA training, teaching our providers how to utilize SAMHSA, to our summer kickoff for all our summer camp providers. We held a summer professional development training. So I want to say kudos to trust staff for all of your hard work in creating those trainings, ensuring that we brought in outside experts to talk to our providers. Kudos to you. Thank you to UF CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, for coming to our professional development training. So that's one. Thank you, staff. Secondly, I want to highlight and thank our chair for coming to our staff retreat, which was on May 30th at Lake Waburg. We had a lot of fun while we were doing some work. It's important, I believe, that we as staff think about our culture here at the Trust. We have a vision, we have a mission, we have goals created by the board, and it's important that the staff has bought into all of those and that we create what I believe to be a culture statement for the work that we do. So that's what we kicked off at our retreat. And so if you know me, you know I like to have a good time as well. We also had some staff superlatives. So I want to highlight those staff superlatives. Our Everyday Hero Award went to Miss Demetra Tyson because she's the person who always steps in and lends a helping hand. Our Bright Spark Award went to Dr. Amy Wagner because she's that person who's always coming forward with a great idea. She's also the person that put together the provider professional development training with books and just a wealth of information for the providers. Our CTAC Values Award, Miss Christy Goldwire, she's that person who always reinforces our why. Our rookies, and I say rookies of the year, were Naomi Volsi. Naomi started as an intern with us, is kind of filling the gap until we hire a new communications director. So Naomi was one of our rookies of the year. And then Jocelyn, you all meet Jocelyn at the front desk. Jocelyn, they make a difference. Since they've been with us as a part of our team, they both have just really shown up, jumped in, and whatever we need, they do it. And then lastly, our Brighten Your Day cheerleader, that also was Jocelyn. Now, this person did not receive a superlative at the retreat, but he was given an award last Friday at his going away ceremony. Uh,
I mean, he's still hanging around for a while.
We'll have to do a third. We'll have to do a second part.
So let me introduce you to Flat Scott. You will see Flat Scott all around the trust over the next probably summer months. He'll be joining us out in the field. But we recognize Scott with our MVP. Some might say our employee of the year. I called it our MVP because he's just been that person from day one when he got here. He stepped in, he filled the gaps. No job was too big or too small, literally, from changing out light bulbs to fixing the door. Scott has done it. So we want to again say thank you to our MVP. Another staff highlight. Christy is a new graduate of Leadership Gainesville, class 51. So kudos, Christy. All right, I think those are all of the staff highlights. And then lastly, two more things. In the back of your notebooks, you should have seen the information on our community, am I calling it the wrong thing? I am. Our early learning collaborative that will be held on Thursday at the Blunt Center downtown. I want to encourage you all to attend it. We are excited. I thought I saw Dr. Canal here. He's one of our facilitators for that event. And then you all should have a copy of the friendly initiative, the launch date.
Oh, no, I have.
Oh, okay. The launch date is the 17th, 5:30 at the Harold Medical Education Building. We are really proud of this. UF Health will be the first doula designated hospital in the country. That is a huge big deal. And our families in Alachua County are going to benefit. And the trust had a hand in ensuring that this happened. So please come out and join us on the 17th if you can at this event. What else? I have one more. Literacy. So this is hot off the presses, if you will. Since our last meeting, the county, the trust staff, and the Center for Nonprofit Excellence have had a meeting. We have a draft of a little bit of a framework that we're going to continue to expand. This is hot off the presses because Teresa sent it to me earlier this morning, so I wanted to share it with you. It's just reading material for you right now. The tentative goal is to host a town hall for literacy providers, those interested in literacy, for us to have a conversation about the literacy plan and literacy development in the county. We're looking at a tentative date for July. So more will come to you via email about that. You'll be seeing information out in the community about it as well. So just wanted you to know that work is beginning to take hold on a plan to bring in our partners to create an advisory committee. So more to come on literacy. And I think, Mr. Chair, that is my report.
Any questions for?
So you have like 2 attorneys in the room, but today we have like 5
Oh.
About that.
about that. So Scott, but even without that, I always tell people, accounting is the center of the universe. I used to tell them that when I was at GRU. So, we're really gonna miss you. And like I said, I hate on Friday that I wasn't able to get over to your, but I appreciate you working out a transition plan to help.
Anyone else?
Just, I just want to echo that. I think you've just done an amazing job and you've made a huge difference in getting us financials that I like to read.
I would add to that, Scott, we said at the last meeting, you were able to share at the workshop, the transition plan. It's very, very much appreciated. We're about to get into that important area of the preliminary budget. And so thank you for, when, at the last meeting, after the meeting, I said, I don't say goodbyes, I just see you around. And I had no idea that meant I was gonna get an opportunity to continue to see you around through August and
And then there's flat
September.
sky.
And there's always.
And that is flat, Scott.
On that note, we got the award table back there. There's a couple of award winners back at the table there, but the staff retreat, to my colleagues here was really, really an important day from my perspective. I brag about our board around the state. I brag about our staff around our community. But I was able to really attend only for like an hour. Marcia said, come eat. So I came and said a few words. I ate, and then I got to actually just sit in the back and listen. And what became really evident was the commitment of this trust staff to really cross-train to articulate the goals of this board. Not just externally to the community, but even how they interact together internally. And that the incredible leadership that exists here, and the leadership that's displayed at every staff level, whether they're leading outside the organization or even internal to the organization, was just real joy to see. For that, and express it to my board colleagues that they would have been very proud to see how that day kind of transpired and what comes out of that. What comes out of that is the good work that we get to do in the community. That concludes the executive director report. If there's no one else. All right,
We should,
yeah, Lee?
do we want to do the audit first before we do? They can.
Yeah, so that was suggested, but if they don't mind staying, I think it's important that we kind of do the budget and walk through that. I know we just spent a lot of time in the workshop, but if we could just summarize the highlights, what we came out of the workshops for the public, who is, when I raise your hand, who here in the public is here for the audit? Who's here for the budget? Yeah. So if our auditors wouldn't mind just kind of hanging through that,
They sit through county commission meetings. They can handle this.
Yeah. Yeah.
so let's go ahead and if we could just do the budget first. Now, what's important that comes out of today is we actually need to pass 2 things. We have to pass the resolution for the preliminary millage, and we have to pass the resolution for the preliminary budget. The preliminary millage is important because that's what the clerk will send out to the county, and we can't go up, we can only go down. So that's the first thing. And the preliminary budget's important because it's preliminary. At the county, we get a preliminary budget from our manager. We pass the preliminary, but I keep saying preliminary because it's preliminary because the county commission then spends the summer screwing it up. And then ultimately getting it passed in September. This board will also get to deliberate and make whatever changes we need to make from the preliminary prior to September, and then we'll go ahead and pass the budget. Well, we probably do, not like the county. Yeah, not like, it's.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Tina.
So, I thought about what all we discussed in the workshop, and I won't go through that, but with us entertaining the possible or the likely impacts to local groups funding who may be getting funding from government, maybe we instead. Oh, I know I lose one board member with that, but,
Two,
oh, three, oh.
yeah, so Tina's,
I mean, I was just saying, we know with all the changes with federal, we know, we've heard from one group here now. We may likely hear from, a group, I mean, other folks who are getting federal funding. I mean, as well as in that early learning space. I don't know if there's federal dollars or if that's all, state. I don't know. I'm just thinking how we prepare for that. I don't.
it's not a bad comment, I've always viewed that if we keep the millage the same, it's a property tax increase, it is. I view those just me personally, those situations where we would increase the millage would be for an extraordinary fund balance and knowing capacity for them to see that we increase the millage when they're having the opposite discussion. But I do support your idea that the need is great. And I view keeping our millage the same as a tax increase, as opposed to doing the rollback rate, which would be almost a half mil. So if there's a majority of the board though that feels the way Tina does, speak now, because we can't go up once we pass the preliminary millage. Got to retrim. You have to, yeah, you can, but you have to basically send out trim notices to the public that says, hey, everything that you reviewed, we were just kidding. And it's a really bad situation, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so with that, why don't, Scott, you do the high levels? I don't think we need to have the 2-hour discussion. If we can just do the high levels, and then we can talk about what we recommended for the public, and then we'll open it up to the public, and then from there, I'll look for 2 motions passed preliminary millage and the preliminary budget. Sumner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start with just reading a couple of the excerpts from the memorandum from Executive Director Kiner. So those following along in your budget book, I'm on page 69. For the fiscal year 26 proposed millage and tentative budget, we have a total budget of 18.9 million, which represents an increase of 5.4% over the fiscal year 25 amended budget. The budget supports the recommendations provided through the strategic plan approved by the board. It also reflects the current approved budget for providers and includes funds for an increase in the financial administration and program operations department. Followed down to revenues, the budget continues to fund the trust's operations. The Finance Committee discussed and approved the 2026 millage rate of 0.45 mils. It will generate an additional 692,000, which represents an increase of 6.9% over fiscal year 25 budgeted tax revenue. We also have included interest revenue of 525,000, which is consistent with prior fiscal years. Onto page 70 under expenses, grants and aid, which shows the largest growth in terms of budget expenditures, provides 13.6 million in funding to support the community and its providers. It also includes a 5% cost of living increase to address the inflationary growth impacting our community. And it also includes 1.8 million in commitments from fiscal year 24 fund balance and 770,000 in commitments from unallocated fiscal year 24 funding plan. From a personnel expenditure perspective, the budget increased by 10.9% to 2.2%. I'm sorry, 2.2 million. The factors that drive that, the largest factor is 2.9% cost of living increase for all personnel, and then a 3.1% merit increase for personnel. Fringe benefits increased by 2%, and there's a request for an additional 1 full-time FTE and 1 part-time FTE represented in that increase. In terms of operational expenditures, it's relatively flat, down $32,000 from fiscal year 25. And then the same reserve for capital expenditures at 200,000 from fiscal year 25. And from there, I think I will just flip directly to the beginning of the budget discussion, which is on page 80. So starting at the top for estimated ad valorem revenue, we received last week the 2026 estimated property tax values. So for 25, adjusted gross taxable value came in at 24.5 billion. The final gross taxable value for 24 was 23.4 billion, so an increase of 1.1 billion year over year. Our proposed millage rate of 0.45 would generate increased tax revenue of $692,000, a 6.9% increase over the fiscal year 25 budgeted tax revenue. You can see that a brief table that describes the millage rate and defines the rollback rate at 0.4082. And below that is a trended chart that just shows the growth in terms of revenue from ad valorem tax revenue. It's been really consistent year over year, right at around 6.5% on average, that entire time period. Next on the budget is page 81. This is the revenue summary for fiscal year 26. We include ad valorem tax revenue of 10.7 million. I had commented already on the interest earnings, and inclusive in our miscellaneous revenue is the rental income for our tenants here in this building. And then we make an adjustment, or we recognize other sources of revenue, which is the fund balance, both the beginning fund balance and ending fund balance, contributing a 7.4 million to the overall budget. So general funds at 18.7 million for the year. For Fund 101, our grants and awards, there are none for fiscal year 26. I will point out that the funding that we have received in the past from ELC expires this year. That's roughly $360,000 that essentially isn't funded externally and shifts directly to the bottom line for the trust to continue funding. I'll acknowledge under Fund 102 Collaborative Task Forces, that revenue item needs to be deleted because our literacy program will be funded differently in 26. Then I already commented on the capital funding use of sources of 200,000 for those expenditures. I'll follow on to page 82, which is the expenditure detail. Personnel services, all of these actually, I've commented on. $2.2 million is the proposed budget for fiscal year 26, roughly 200,000 to 20 more than the amended budget for fiscal year 25. Operating expenses essentially flat, down about $30,000. Pretty substantial increase for grants and aid from 12 million in 25 to 13.6 in fiscal year 26. And then the other uses of funds come from our required reserve and the $200,000 for revenue to support, $1,000 for capital, thank you. No operating expenses for Fund 101, grants and awards. The same is true for the collaborative task forces. That 62,000 expenditure will be removed, and you see the capital outlay of $200,000 for the capital project fund. So 18.987 million for the expenditure detail. The next page just outlines our personnel. It identifies the two positions, one full-time, one part-time, that we are requesting. And then I think I'll turn the remainder of my comments over to grants and aid summary. I'm going to skip the summary page. It's just intended to show you by goal what the funding allocation is, the commitments against those, and we'll just get into the details starting on page 85. So for goal 1, children and youth are healthy and have nurturing caregivers and relationships. The funding, initial funding allocation for goal 1 is 5,280,850. And you can see the expenditures that we've programmed against that. Many of them are existing programs. There are a few that are still to be determined. And overall commitments for expenses for program funding at 3.5 million, leaving a balance in goal 1 of 1.7 million. I'll shift to goal 2, starting on page 86. Children and youth can learn what they need to be successful. Initial funding allocation of roughly $3.7 million. We've got programming for early learning, including Business Leadership Institute, ELC. All the summer camp RFPs that we have concluded, contracts we've negotiated are fully represented here. I'll just say for the total, when you look at summer camps, that's $2.1 million in total costs for that program, summer camp programs. Following on to page 87. Enrichment programming at $847,000 in total. And then after-school programming, continuing funding is roughly $2.3 million in total. Following on to page 88, for our other summer programming, Freedom School is included here. Several other ongoing initiatives that continue to be funded. And literacy, which in particular was a discussion at the last board meeting for funding, is included here. So the total 3.7 million in the allocation for program funding. Goal 2 comes in at 8.1 million. So an overspend of 4.4 million in goal 2 alone.
Come from.
There's a fair amount of it that comes from, yeah, I appreciate that. Some of the funding that we're talking about here are, if you see them highlighted in blue, those are fiscal year 2024 fund balance commitments. If you see it in orange, those are fiscal year 2024 unallocated budget commitments. So it is in essence spending fund balance in addition to our regular programming. And maybe indirectly to your comment, Member Pinkason, if we reflect back on the total revenue available, incremental revenue, year-over-year revenue of roughly $11.2 million. The amount of 13.5 million coming just for grants and aid clearly shows that we're incrementally spending fund balance beyond what our incremental revenue is year over year. Let's see, goal 3 on page 89, children and youth live in a safe community, roughly $1 million in funding allocation for that goal. This includes in particular our mentoring programs. The gun violence initiative is included here as a highlight. And then a number of commitments around community capacity building and innovation grants. In total, those I'm sorry, I went too far. In goal 3, of the $1 million we allocated, we came in over budget by about $63,000. The last chart that you see there is community capacity building and innovation grants. $528,000 is an initial funding allocation. Altogether, $725,000 in commitments, so roughly $200,000 in overcommitment from available funds. Then on the last page, the super grand total, 10.7 million was the initial funding allocation. We come in at 13.6 million in total expenditures, so right at $3 million in program funding beyond available funds. And then you can see the breakdown of the roughly 3 million, 2.5 comes from prior fund balance commitments.
Okay, thank you, Scott. So before we do a motion for the preliminary budget, why don't we dispose of the millage unless there's a desire to
Sure. I would like to approve. The 2025-2026 year, fighting for an effective date. Fighting for an effective date.
Same, we can always at the final in September lower it. We're not going to raise it. Is there any discussion? Any public discussion on that item? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion is unanimous with Judge Fuller.
That's
He might be the judge.
Say that again, Judge Fuller, for the clerk.
125.901.
All right, next up, we've got a motion to,
talk about the
yeah, so let's discuss,
allocation.
yeah, so why don't we have a discussion about what came out of the workshop, and then if you want to put a motion, then we can modify it, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Essentially, what I thought would be good, it's not exactly what's written back. Recommendation thought process of allowing providers to come back with 105% of what they spent the previous year. Y'all have the opportunity to look, see where maybe some nuances or something that we're not thinking about. So, but just come back. That's the concept. So the motion would be to come back with a recommendation about concept of providers come back. They're allowed 105% of their previous year's expenditures.
That's part one. Also want to pass the preliminary budget.
Separate motion.
I think
Oh.
we're also we discussed segregating those things that are considered time limited initiatives like our gun violence, since there's not a specific program that we're funding, and also the literacy. Fund balance expenditures, not foreseen as being current, part of our current ongoing, are using that fund balance have to be one-time, non-recurring.
Yeah, so we are currently budgeted and we have in the past to use fund balance for recurring. And we want to identify in this year's budget that these are really one-time expenditures as opposed to. Part motion, do I hear a second? Seconds, one for Vice Chair, one for Tina. Any other discussion? All right, let's open it up to the public. Got a motion on the floor. Anyone from the public wish to speak to the motion? I don't rush up to the podium all at once. There's a lot of room. All right, bring it back to the board. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion is. Okay, great. Part two.
Move that. 2026 preliminary.
Emphasis on preliminary. Thank you. That's all in bold. Do I hear a second? A second from Judge Bullard. And is there any discussion to the motion?
I wanted, oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Dr. Patton is resolution with vote of Dr. Patton.
Yes, thank you, Marcia.
We would only have 5 people voting.
Sorry.
You have, Dr. Patton?
Yes, dear.
Are you an affirmative on the millage vote?
Yes, very much so.
Thank you.
Okay, got an affirmative vote, so it is unanimous with Judge Bullard abstaining. Thank you, Dr. Patton, for the affirmative vote.
No problem.
That's it.
It actually was 5 because I really didn't vote because I wanted to raise it, but I was just gonna let it go. But
Have Ms. Certain on the record voting for it. Record reflect.
Even by just not saying that.
Thank you, team.
Yeah, I did want to comment. I think as part of the strategic plan, another piece of the conversation we had is to take a look at which goal bucket we have a number of these expenses in, so that we're clearer about what it is that they are doing and contributing to in terms of goal areas. So it's not about changing the funding issue. Is this really an education issue? Make sure that we know where we are actually putting our money, so that we can then figure out how we evaluate programs and make sure that we're fulfilling our strategic plan.
Any other comments before I open it up to the public?
yeah, I think also we kind of got into this session because it was brought up by Member Pinkerton that down that path of using. Yeah, so I'm with you guys to a point, but
Yeah,
I'm thinking the reason I'm like a little bit hesitant is because, of I think the.
What I would say on that is it's very typical for us to get a little surprise from our tax after we get past the preliminary. what most commissions do, at least at the county, is we just start spending. I would think if there's a year that we not think about that, this would probably be that year, because we have always budgeted for the use. But with what's happening in Tallahassee and with what we're anticipating. Ad valorem is a positive.
That was also part of the reason the discussion turned funding to 105% of the prior year, because it will give us a contracted amounts that's a highest possible. And we now have enough history to be able to actual expended amounts, still build in a buffer for inflation, but to have a more accurate sense of what we're going to spend, so that we do know how out and what do we have as fund balance and pilots and new initiatives. And let's see what develops, in.
Okay, thank you, members. Any further discussion? Go ahead and open it up to the public. Now's the time for the public to come up and give us their thoughts about our workshop, current motion on the floor, or anything else you've heard about the budget. Going once, going twice. Ron, I was wrong. They're here, but they don't want to talk. So thank you for waiting. All right, let's bring it back to the board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is unanimous. Okay. Thank you, members. Now we get for an auditor to the what do we call it, Scott? This is the wonderful audit of 2024. So members, we've got Purvis Gray here to give us an overview of the work that they and our finance department has been adamantly working on for the last couple of months. And with that, I'll turn it over to our amazing auditors. Purvis Gray, Ron, you recognize.
All,
Is the green light on?
it is. I moved it a little bit. Is it picking me up?
Oh, quite a.
I have
Hold
to
on,
hold.
hold on one second. That's a resolution on the preliminary
Yeah,
budget
the-
and a resolution on the.
Well, as first, what I did was the board is asked to approve the 2025-2026 preliminary. Approved, but apparently we have establishing a proposed budget for fiscal. It sounds the same, but there were two different motions.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah, so we passed the proposed preliminary budget. It's actually a resolution. So,
Right.
yeah, so we did it.
So we did it. It's just a one. Okay. That's
Did two resolutions, two motions. It was two.
Yeah, we did two separate motions.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Rob, sorry about that. You are back to your agenda. item.
All right, am I getting picked up sufficiently? I'll try to project at it a little bit.
Ask Nancy, Nancy, can you hear Ron?
You're in and out. I think you might need to hold it.
No, I think she says she just nodded saying yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'll aim at it a little bit at pick me up. Well, this is the conclusion of the audit of 2024. So you're gonna have to change gears a little bit from 2026. Go back a couple of years to. Heather Donovan is here with me today. Heather runs the audit. She also met with your audit finance committee. Although I'm tempted that Tina has pointed out that there's a room full of accountants. They've had that exhaustive discussion, and so I'm going to keep it pretty high level today. First of all, we've issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's an important bit of this. That is a clean opinion. That's the highest form of assurance your auditor can give you. That's what you want to get, and that's what we have issued. Audit involves not only looking at the financial statement amounts, also involves looking at the processes and control generate those amounts. We do have two recommendations that came out of this audit. One dealt with the bank reconciliation process. Recommendation is that be performed monthly during not being performed. Or work with management on their process and how there are things that go back. This is a comment that's been around for a couple of project. Not quite as simple as just not preparing the monthly. Then the other comment dealt with the financial close process. Adjustments at the end of the year that are not part of the normal process. And so this was that or some other items that not part of that needed to be fixed this year. That comment just deals with working. So in all, though, I would say the audit went very well, and I certainly appreciate all of the effort getting ready for it. We'll take a quick look at the numbers again, since we're going back in time. There's probably not a lot of need to spend a lot of time on this, but if you look at page 7 of the report, this is management's discussion and analysis. It's the only place in the report that has current and prior year data, so it's a nice place to look at the results. On page 7, starting at the top, those are expenditures for the year. $10.1 million versus 8.2 in the prior year, 0.9 or 23%. 2023 to 2024. Almost all of that, 1.8 million of it was program service. So bottom half of that schedule, the primary revenues, of course, continue to be ad valorem. There was no millage rate change between 23. That was all valuation growth. But the other major revenue is just interest earnings. Here in 2024, there was a $500,000 excess. Reduction in go back one page to page 6. We get the current assets, or essentially cash investments, are flat. Non-current assets are up 1.9 million. That's the current liabilities increased by 1.3 million. Those are grants that have been awarded. $1.2 million in long-term. Difference between the two is net position. It's at 12.8 million at the end, which is not spendable. It's the building, and 10 million of which there's one other letter that we issue as part of an audit. Between the auditor and you as the governing body. It may be a separate letter in your packet. Yep. This covers a number of items that auditors are supposed to communicate to governing process that might not be evident initially from the statement. Didn't the first section on qualitative aspects of an accounting practices that we implement. Okay, thank you. We have significant estimates in the financial statements is the next section. The big estimate here is just the Florida retirement system, pension outflows. Difficulties encountered during the audit, again, other than process that I mentioned that can use some audit otherwise. Any corrected or uncorrected misstatements, so this is everything just posed as part of the audit. Again, some of those adjustments are items that we have agreed to areas, others are items that hope to get management making those training and finally, did we have any other disagreements or issues with management? And the management team's efforts. All great to work with and a lot of work. With that, that's the audit presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to.
Okay, members, there's no action required, but are there any questions or comments for Ron?
Thank y'all.
Yeah, so I've seen none. Ron, I'll just say kind of 3 points. One, clean, unmodified opinion. Awesome, great. Great job by the accounting staff. 2 recommendations. I know that this is looking back from September of 24 and then 23. And I just would say, Scott, I really appreciate us getting caught up, and also that during the transition, one of the things that you mentioned during the workshop is these 2 items at the end of each month, working not only with your current staff, but also with our auditors to. The last thing I would say is if you could go back to page 7, is kind of Lee's point that he brought up at the workshop. If you look at our revenues, they are in 2023, the ad valorem covered our expenses. In 2024, the ad valorem didn't cover our expenses, and we went used interest income, and we are, and obviously we budgeted that way, use of fund balance. And 2025, we've also budgeted that way. We'll have a better sense, but my guess is it'll be a greater use of fund balance than in 2024. Obviously aware of that in the 2020. Thank you for covering all that, Ron. Very healthy balance sheet though, which is wonderful. And taxpayers know that we would take. All right, and Heather, we got 2 hours with Heather at the finance committee meeting. Ron was out of town, so thank you, Heather, for all of that work. I know we spent a lot of time kind of talking to you back and forth and going over everything. We really appreciate oh, it's great, very, very much. All right. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, moving on. Now we have our second opportunity for general public comments. Sometimes you come to a meeting and you don't know what to say when you listen and you got something to say at the end. So this would be that time. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address this board? Yeah, okay, go ahead and close public comment. Board member comments. I'll start online. Dr. Patton or Nancy, you have any questions? Oh, Dr. Hart. Patton, you have anything? Oh, look, Dr. Hart, you have anything for?
Yeah, the only thing I have is the sound is not as good as it was during the workshop. I don't know if people aren't talking into their microphones or what, but when they work, they're perfect. And when they don't work, there's nothing.
Okay. Dr. Patton?
Yes, I hear the sound. I hear the sound very well where I'm at. So maybe it's just I have a better connection somehow.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Let me go around the room. Tina, you got anything?
I just would like to say, my apologies, my regrets. I'll miss the early learning, event on Thursday because we have our state association meeting tomorrow. Starts on Wednesday, but I leave tomorrow, so. Next time, hopefully.
Need to, Dr. Knopf on that or your work on that. Judge, anything? Okay, and I don't have anything either, so that concludes board member comments, and then we've got for information purposes, partnership for strong families, early childhood collaborative, we talked about. The first doula launch for the U of Health, amazing. The Alachua County gun violence update is tab 15, we had a little discussion about that, and we'll be hearing from them in August, and then a provider highlight. We've got, let's see, the CTAC board planning retreat is Thursday, July 17th, 9 to 5, and that will be here. Okay, and then we've got our next board meeting will follow that and will be on August 11th. And that will also be here. Else, staff, good? We good?
One thing, Impact GMV, just an announcement, they're having some open house on Thursday, I'm missing that also.
This Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
But there's no regular meeting, just the work.
okay, and with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
You have to fill out your board meeting and give it to.
Only 5 o'clock.
I got here too, so good.
Well,
Good today.
you need to be. Well, have a good evening, everybody.
Feel better.
Thank you. Next one, I should be there in person. Yay.
Say not to be.
They caught them.